Hey guys, welcome to the new video lecture series as a machine element design. In today's lecture, we will talk about a very popular and very important thing, that is gear. Okay, guys. Okay, before starting, let me introduce what is gear first of all. Okay, gear. A gear are defined as tooth tooth wheel which transmit power from one shaft to another shaft by successive engagement of teeth. By successive engagement, after well the gear which engage successively, then they will transmit the power and motion. Advantage: it is positive drive. Okay, guys. Compact construction, can transmit large power, efficiency is very high. In it can change velocity over wide range. Okay, guys. For example, our the popular one is our motorcycle gearbox or the vehicle gearbox, etc. Classification of gear. Classification of gear according to the position of the axis of the shaft. First one is parallel axis, intersecting axis, non-intersecting axis. Parallel axis. In parallel axis, there are number of types of gear. That is spur gear, helical gear, rack and pinion gear, internal gear. Okay. Intersecting gear. What is intersecting? Meter gear, straight bevel gear, spiral bevel gear. Non-parallel, non-intersecting axis, screw gear, worm gear, worm wheel. Okay, let's go to the spur gear. What is spur gear? In the spur gear, we will know about the spur gear and its nomenclature, as well as we will do one gear designing process as well. Okay, numerical problem. Okay, guys. So do follow and please subscribe my channel. Okay, now let's move to the spur gear. The two parallel and coplanar shaft connected by the gear are called spur gear. What? The two parallel and coplanar shaft. If two parallel and coplanar shaft connected by a gear are called spur gear. These spur gear teeth parallel to the axis of the wheel. That means teeth are straight and parallel to the axis of rotation. If this is the rotation axis and the teeth are parallel to this rotation axis, guys. Okay, in spur gear. Helical gear. In helical gear, teeth are inclined to the axis. Okay, helical gear. The name suggests, its name suggests that it's helical means at some angle. Helical gear also connect to parallel shaft, and this gear can take comparatively higher load at high speed. Helical gear approaches the teeth by gradual contact, guys. Okay, gradual. In spur gear, what happens? They directly engage. In helical gear, they are in angle. So first of all, it will contact, and then the contact will, and then first of all, it is gradually contact, and then it will just disengage. Okay, guys. Helical gear approaches the teeth by gradual contact, so they operate more smoothly than spur gear. Okay, in case of the spur gear, what happens? There is a noise create. If you see the what the mill, that what we call, that is I forgot the name of that mill. Okay, guys, the helix angle of teeth ranges from 15 to 30 degree. Okay, what? 15 to, the helix angle ranges from 15 to 30 degree. Double helical gears. These gear have two set of opposite helical teeth. The main object of this gear is to balance the axial thrust. In a helical gear, what happens? Due to the inclination of the tooth, the axial thrust produces. This axial thrust, what happens? What is the effect of that axial thrust? Is that it affects the bearing by adding more load to the bear, and it will result in result the bearing structure. It will damage the bearing structure. It tend to damage the bearing structure. Okay, guys. Axial thrust which occur in case of helical is eliminated in double helical gears. Let's go to the bevel gear. Bevel gear are of these types: straight bevel gear, spiral bevel gear, and zero bevel gear. The two non-parallel intersecting but coplanar shaft connected by a gear. This gear called bevel gear, guys. Okay, what is bevel gear? Bevel gear definition is here. And let's move to the according to the type of gear, external gear and internal gear. What is external gear? In external gear, the gear of the two shaft mesh externally with each other. The gear that maximum we people we student we as a student we had seen the number of external gears like the spur gear is also in external gear. Okay, the larger the larger of these two wheel is called spur gear. The larger of these two wheel, the meshing, if two gear are meshing to each other, then the larger gear is called gear and the smaller wheel is called always a pinion. Okay guys, it's a notation, it's an it's an identification that small gear is pinion and the large gear is always gear. The internal gear, in the internal gear, the gear of the two shaft mesh internally with each other, internally with each other. What happens in external gear, if you want to rotate the gear, if one rotate in clockwise direction, the other rotate, like for example, if the gear are in external mesh, external gears, this rotate this direction and this will rotate in this direction. Whenever we require to move the and we have to change the direction of rotation of gear, then we will use in external gear, the one major things that we have to note that guys. And in internal gear, what happens, the gear, it if it rotates, the external gear rotate in clockwise direction, then it also rotate in clockwise direction. What we concluded that in external gears, whenever we have to change the direction of motion, then we will use external gear. Whenever two in case of external gear, we can do that by adding one another gear, then it will rotate it in the same direction of that. But we have to add one more gear which is ideal gear. It has no effect, no work, but it helps to change the direction of the gear. Okay guys, so if there is no space, if there is an space problem, sometimes we have a space problem, so we cannot add the one extra idle gear, so we will use this internal gear. It will save this much amount of area. Okay guys, in that time we use internal gear. The larger of these two wheel is called annular wheel and the smaller wheel called pinion guys. In case of the internal gear, the larger gear is called annular. Okay, larger gear is called annular and the smaller gear is called pinion. In an internal gear, the motion of gear is always like means in a same direction. Okay, now about nomenclature we will do in next lecture guys. Thank you.